Ionescu has to get it in. Finds Stewart underneath. She's smothered, and it's over. No! A foul is called. A foul is called on Minnesota.
The WNBA has always had a history of missteps, often finding itself under scrutiny for just the wrong reasons. From financial struggles to controversies, the league has consistently failed to shift the narrative in its favor. Instead of addressing the root causes of their challenges, they've deflected blame and demanded more resources, and that takes them more away from their fans. And just when you think they've hit rock bottom, they somehow manage to dig even deeper. The latest fiasco? A championship game so disastrous it made headlines for all the wrong reasons. On October 20th, 2024, during the decisive Game 5 of the WNBA Finals, the league's brightest stars took the stage and completely faltered. Air balls, blown layups, questionable referee calls, and even public criticism from NBA players all turned what should have been a showcase of elite basketball into a spectacle of embarrassment. Well, let's dive into what many are calling one of the most cringeworthy professional basketball games in history. Setting the stage. The build-up to this game was immense. The New York Liberty, the top seed in the East, with an impressive 32-8 regular season record, were on a mission, or so we thought. Loaded with star power, their roster boasted Breanna Stewart, a two-time MVP and Finals MVP, Sabrina Ionescu, a sharp-shooting sensation known for her bold challenges to Steph Curry, and Jonquel Jones, the 2021 MVP and a dominant stretch center. This trio, supported by strong role players, had led the Liberty to the brink of their first-ever championship. On the other side of the court were the Minnesota Lynx, the top seed in the West. While their roster lacked the same superstar depth, their defensive discipline made them a formidable opponent. Led by Defensive Player of the Year Napheesa Collier and a coach chasing a historic fifth championship, the Lynx embodied teamwork and grit. This was a battle between the Liberty's high-powered offense and Minnesota's stifling defense, a matchup that promised to deliver fireworks. The stakes couldn't even have been higher. The 2024 Finals had adopted a new best-of-5 format, meaning this Game 5 was the equivalent of a Game 7 in the NBA. For fans, this was a rare moment. A WNBA championship deciding game with everything on the line. But what happened? Well, keep listening. The train wreck. Disappointingly, what went down on that court was far from championship caliber basketball. From the opening tip, it was clear something was off. In the first quarter alone, viewers were treated to an array of mishaps. Air balls are rare in professional basketball. Typically, you might see one or two in an entire NBA game. Yet, in just 10 minutes of this WNBA Finals showdown, there were three. That's right, 3 air balls in a single quarter. And if that wasn't bad enough, the missed layups piled on the humiliation. The Liberty and Lynx combined for 5 blown layups, wide open, right at the rim attempts that clanged off the hoop like it was a practice scrimmage. It didn't even stop there. Questionable decision-making and head-scratching plays left fans wondering, was this really the pinnacle of women's professional basketball? By the end of the first quarter, the scoreboard read 19-10 in favor of the Lynx, a shockingly low score for a championship game. For context, WNBA quarters are only 10 minutes long, so the offensive struggles were glaring. From bad to worse. What made this debacle even more painful was the context. This wasn't a regular season game where teams might have an off night. This was the finals, the game meant to showcase the very best the league had to offer. Instead, it became a viral moment for all the wrong reasons. The officiating didn't help matters, with several controversial calls further destroying the game. Meanwhile, emotions boiled over on the sidelines, with coaches visibly frustrated and players struggling to find their rhythm. The Liberty, in particular, seemed completely out of sync, a baffling turn of events for a team that had dominated the season. Adding fuel to the fire, criticism began pouring in from all corners, including NBA players who couldn't resist chiming in on social media. The disappointment was palpable. This game had the potential to be a turning point for the WNBA, a chance to win over skeptics and showcase the league's growth. Instead, it became a case study in how not to execute under pressure. But what actually went wrong? It's hard to pinpoint exactly what caused such a meltdown on such a big stage. Fatigue, nerves, poor preparation. Whatever the reason, this game left a sour taste in the mouths of even the most loyal fans. The Liberty's star players, Stewart, Ionescu, and Jones, failed to deliver when it mattered most. Their inability to convert simple opportunities painted a team unprepared for the moment. Meanwhile, the Lynx' defensive strategy was effective, but their offensive execution was equally underwhelming. The result was a game that lacked flow, excitement, or any semblance of the elite basketball fans had hoped to see. The second quarter of the game did little or even nothing to redeem the rocky start we had just witnessed. While there was a slight improvement, only 2 air balls this time, the game remained riddled with blunders. Missed layups and baffling decisions continued to dominate the action, leaving fans and commentators scratching their heads. At this point, it felt almost cruel to keep tallying the errors, but one moment in the third quarter stood out for its sheer absurdity. A shot so bizarre, it had me laughing out loud. Before I could process it, the comedy continued. A follow-up air ball, and then another, all within minutes. Watching this play out, with millions tuned in for what was supposed to be the league's crowning moment, the embarrassment was hard to ignore. And if you thought that was the worst of it, buckle up. This debacle was just getting started. The free throw controversy. Let's talk about the glaring free throw disparity. By the end of the game, the New York Liberty had attempted a whopping 25 free throws compared to the Minnesota Lynx's mere 8. For context, that's over 3 times as many opportunities from the charity stripe. The imbalance was impossible to overlook, and it played a major role in deciding the game's outcome. In the closing minutes, with the championship on the line, the game boiled down to free throws. Minnesota's Napheesa Collier, who had been stellar throughout, missed a wide-open layup that could have secured the win and cemented her team's place in history. Instead, New York regained possession. What followed was a moment of chaos. Breanna Stewart drove to the basket, committing an obvious traveling violation in the process. Yet, rather than calling the travel, the officials blew the whistle on a questionable defensive foul against Minnesota, sending New York to the line. The Lynx, understandably, challenged the call. As the world watched the replay, it seemed clear that there was no foul, at least not one worthy of deciding a championship game. But in a move that shocked everyone, the officials upheld the call, ruling that Minnesota's defender wasn't in a legal guarding position. The backlash was swift and brutal. NBA stars didn't hold back on social media. Isaiah Thomas tweeted, "They low-key cheated for New York, but I get it, LOL." Damian Lillard chimed in, "Refs called this game like they knew the assignment in the second half, boy. Great game." Even LeBron James joined the conversation, writing, "I'm sorry, but that wasn't a foul. Let the damn players dictate the outcome of a close battle-tested game." LeBron's tweet ignited a firestorm of reactions. Fans flooded the comments, echoing the notion that the officiating had overstepped. "I don't care if it's technically a foul or not," one fan wrote. "I don't want the refs bailing out a team for a dumb attempt like this on some marginal contact during crunch time." Another added, "Is that not a travel plus a non-foul? Man." The officiating inconsistencies weren't limited to that one crucial moment. Throughout the game, the refs seemed quick to whistle Minnesota players for minor infractions while turning a blind eye to glaring violations by New York. One particularly blatant example was Sabrina Ionescu blatantly carrying the ball, possibly traveling in the process, without any call. How do the refs catch every slight misstep from the Lynx, yet miss something so obvious from the Liberty? These discrepancies didn't go unnoticed. Minnesota's coach, Cheryl Reeve, who had been vocal all season about the WNBA being bigger than just 1 or 2 marquee players, was visibly furious during the post-game interview. Her frustration mirrored the thoughts of many who felt the game had been tainted by poor officiating. A day to really forget. It wasn't just the officiating that dragged this game down. The on-court performance from both teams was nothing short of disastrous. The Liberty's Sabrina Ionescu, often heralded as one of the league's brightest stars, had an abysmal shooting night, going 1 for 19. Social media had a field day, with fans jokingly comparing her performance to Klay Thompson on his worst day. From start to finish, the game was a parade of missed opportunities, questionable calls, and unforced errors. The stakes couldn't have been higher. This was the final game of the season, the ultimate test of skill and composure. Yet, instead of rising to the occasion, both teams crumbled under the spotlight, leaving fans disappointed and critics with plenty of ammunition. This game will undoubtedly serve as a cautionary tale for the WNBA. For a league striving to grow its fan base and establish itself as a premier sports organization, moments like these are a significant setback. From the poor execution on the court to the officiating controversies, this was a missed opportunity to showcase the best of women's basketball. That said, it's important to remember that not all women's basketball is like this anyway. In stark contrast to this debacle, Caitlin Clark recently delivered a performance for the ages, a game that will be celebrated for generations, and she did all season long. So yeah, we are not generalizing here. To see what made that game so unforgettable and how it highlights the potential of women's basketball, check out our breakdown of her legendary performance on the day Caitlin Clark became a basketball goddess. The WNBA Finals Game 5 will be remembered, but for all the wrong reasons. Here's hoping the league can learn from this experience and deliver a better product in the future. Fans deserve it, and so do the players.